Hello again, the top stories here on Al Jazeera. Renewed fighting in the oil port of Ras Lanuf. Reports say the clashes are underway between pro-Gaddafi forces and rebels. Government forces showered the city with rockets and tank shells on Thursday, forcing patients in the main hospital to be evacuated. And in another oil port, Brega, fighters report multiple airstrikes by government forces there. The hospital filling with the wounded as well, challenging the rebels' hold on the country's east. And security forces have opened fire to disperse protesters in Saudi Arabia. They defied a government ban on demonstrations and rallies by calling for reform and the release of political prisoners. The African Union has endorsed Alassane Ouattara as the rightful leader of Côte d'Ivoire. After meeting in Ethiopia, the Peace and Security Council said Laurent Gbagbo must leave office in the interests of the Ivorian people. Gbagbo's representative at the meeting said the resolution was untenable. Well, the deadlock is hurting the economy. Côte d'Ivoire is the world's biggest cocoa producer, much of which is turned into chocolate. The export of almost 500,000 tons of cocoa beans has been held up. Now the disputed President Gbagbo has ordered producers to get back to work or else. Mohamed Ado has more.
The Côte d'Ivoire's economy largely depends on its cocoa crop. But the farmers who will soon be gathering that precious harvest say they're now victims of the political battle engulfing their country. As the presidential face-off between Laurent Gbagbo and Alassane Ouattara goes on, each is issuing different orders to the farmers, and they're getting fed up.
Life is becoming more and more miserable for us farmers. Both Gbagbo and Ouattara should leave and let someone with a conscience take over the country's leadership.
Cocoa has been his family's main income for more than 30 years.
All the former leaders of the cocoa sector are in jail, and Gbagbo has appointed his own. And now he has nationalized the sector. This is because he knows it's profitable and can get him money.
The ongoing political crisis in Ivory Coast threatens the country's status as being the world's top producer of cocoa. And now farmers are complaining that it's no longer profitable to grow cocoa as illegal cartels take advantage of the situation to take their crop at throwaway prices. Alou Bile is a trader in the small town of Ara in the eastern part of Côte d'Ivoire. He says he hasn't sold any cocoa for the last 2 months.
Every morning, farmers come to me for payment. I have no money to pay them. If the situation remains the same, it will be unbearable for us.
European Union sanctions imposed in protest over Gbagbo's refusal to stand down are already strangling the nation's cocoa sector. More than 475,000 tons are stuck in storage. If cocoa production continues to suffer, then not only will farmers face financial ruin, it will soon become a major concern too for chocolate lovers everywhere. Mohamed Ado, Al Jazeera, Ara in eastern Côte d'Ivoire.
Now, just before he's due to appear in court, Italy's Prime Minister has unveiled controversial proposals to restrict the powers of prosecutors. Silvio Berlusconi announced the reforms with a bandage on his face. He's had surgery after being attacked 2 years ago. He wants Parliament to allow judges to be sued for trial errors. A bomb has exploded close to the gates of a school in the southern Philippines. The blast killed at least 4 people and wounded 10 on the island of Jolo. Police said they received reports of bomb threats earlier in the week. There's been no claim of responsibility. The death toll from an earthquake that struck southwest China on Thursday has risen to 25. Hundreds of others have been injured and more than 1,000 families left homeless. As Al Sukri has more.
A partially collapsed building leans precariously and rescuers work frantically to save as many people as they can. Under the rubble, a woman lies trapped. Eventually they reach her and, as gently as possible, pull her to safety. Traffic surveillance cameras recorded these pictures as the earthquake struck Yingjiang County in the southwestern province of Yunnan. The quake toppled more than 1,000 homes and apartments. It was the latest of more than 1,200 minor tremors in the region over the last 2 months. State television pictures showed buildings that had buckled, crushing their lower floors. According to the US Geological Survey, more than 1 million people may have been exposed to the worst shaking. The quake's epicenter was near the border with Myanmar, but the secretive government gave no information of the impact of the quake on its impoverished people. Azhar Sukri, Al Jazeera.
Thailand's so-called red shirts will take to the streets this weekend. It's been almost a year since their failed attempt to bring down the government. Dozens died in those protests, and as the government prepares for an election, victims' families are calling for answers. Wayne Hay reports from Bangkok.
For almost a year, Pansak Sitep has been looking for answers, searching for someone to own up to killing his son.
What we want is the truth, but so far there have been no words offered.
17-year-old Samapan was shot in the head after he went to get a first-hand look at the unfolding military crackdown on anti-government protesters in Bangkok. On the outskirts of the capital city, his home has been transformed into a makeshift shrine to a young man who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Pansak now spends much of his time on the internet trying to find out why an apparently unarmed person was killed by, he alleges, the army.
He was unarmed. The only thing he had on him was his cell phone and a helmet. They were the only things found next to his body.
The images of soldiers firing live rounds on the streets of Bangkok are still fresh in the minds of most Thais. They came out to disperse the red shirts who tried to force the government out. The administration of Prime Minister Abhisit Wechachewä survived and is now preparing for an election sometime in the next few months. It maintains its soldiers didn't kill any innocent civilians.
We are not to be blamed. We didn't initiate the use of weapons on any civilians at all. This is what we stand. The soldiers only defend themselves.
Since the crackdown, the government's Department of Special Investigation has only come up with a few details publicly about some of the more than 90 deaths. The government also set up a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to look into the violence. Its first report was due in January. Nothing was released. The wait is too long for families of the victims, some of whom are conducting their own searches for the truth. Pansak also wants the government to say sorry for the death of his son. He's not expecting to receive either. Wayne Hay, Al Jazeera, Bangkok.
Pakistan's vaccination program targeting more than 30